Well, good morning, everybody. Afternoon, sorry, good afternoon. It's the middle of the night in Australia, so if I look like I'm half asleep, that's probably true. Although I have had a few days to adjust. Quick show of hands, how many of you who actually sell on eBay? All right, most of you, that's great. That's probably why you're here, to find out about how to manage the risks and challenges of trading on eBay. How many of you also sell on Amazon, or how many of you sell on Amazon? Quite a few, great. As we heard in the last session, if you were here, Amazon is about to launch in Australia. We think probably next month, and they've bought their first distribution centre only a couple of suburbs from where I live, so I think that's very exciting for the Australian consumers. But for sellers, it's kind of a lot of, perhaps it's an interesting time, particularly for sellers in Australia who have been trading on eBay but not on Amazon. Today I want to talk about the risks and challenges of trading on eBay specifically. Amazon and eBay are both marketplaces, but there are some big differences between them. As in the last couple of sessions, we've been hearing, if you're in this hall, about dealing with some of the challenges in the Amazon marketplace and community. There's also a number of issues on eBay as well. I'll just get my little clicker. Alrighty. So first thing we need to establish is why you're actually trading on a marketplace. Sorry, is that dropping in and out? No, it's okay. The number one priority, it is dropping out. There we go. Make sure I'm actually all right. Okay. I don't really need to say anything more than that. Obviously, the number one priority of being on a marketplace is to make profit. But I think people sometimes forget that. It's very easy to get so interested in following the individual sale or selling volume of products that we forget about the fact that we're actually in business, and businesses only survive if we actually make money. We're in business to make money so that we can live our lives. What does it take to actually succeed in an online business or any business? Well, number one, obviously you need customers. Secondly, you need those customers to actually buy, but you also need to remember there are some risks of being in business. This applies to any business. So what are some of the risks specifically on eBay? Again, these are common to a lot of businesses. So first, every business has to comply with the law, right? Whether it's tax law, business laws, every country is different. There's a lot of similarities between America and Australia, of course. There's consumer law. There's certain things that you are allowed to say about your products and about what the customer's going to get, what their rights are, and there's certain things you're not allowed to say. And it's not good enough to just list a product on an eBay or an Amazon marketplace or even on a website or put it into a shop window and just expect that the customer knows what their rights are, or worse still, perhaps abuse them. There's going to be industry regulations. There's going to be safety standards. Baby products, toys have to meet certain safety requirements. Electrical products, there are rules and regulations in different countries that vary. So products coming in from China, they might be cheap, but do they actually comply with the standards in Australia, in America, anywhere else? Of course, the important thing here is there's going to be a range of eBay policies, just as there are on Amazon, and Vero is basically eBay's intellectual property management program, which I'll spend a bit of time talking about today as well. Right, let's get specific. What are some of the specific risks that you need to be aware of if you're going to be trading on the eBay marketplace? There's a whole lot of them there. I'll just kind of run through them fairly quickly. But I do want to highlight a couple of them in particular because these are probably the major risks in each of these areas. So the first box is poor search visibility. If your listings are not being found, you're not going to sell much, right? Your first priority in business is to make a profit. If you don't sell, you're not going to make profit, so you failed. The biggest risk to your business on eBay is actually selling items that you can't supply. It's an out-of-stock transaction, out-of-stock cancellation, and eBay will give you a defect for it. If you get too many of those, in fact, if 2% of your transactions in the evaluation period, you've actually had out-of-stock cancellations, you go straight to below standard, and eBay actively pushes your listings down in search results. That's not somewhere you want to be because your business is not going to do very well at all. The second one that is the biggest risk there is if you do not resolve cases which are raised against you by buyers. A buyer's got an issue, a question, a problem. The product is not what they thought it was, or there's a problem with the product, and you don't attend to it in a quick enough time. eBay will penalise you for that. Well, that's fair, because at the end of the day, you really should be doing that anyway. These are your customers as much as they are eBay's. In the second area, there's a risk that you could lose revenue. How can you lose revenue? Well, you can follow your competitors down to zero and make a loss. That's pretty stupid. Most people don't do that, but there's some automatic repricing programs out there which you might not set properly, and you might find yourself actually selling under price or even under cost, which is worse, and perhaps making a loss. But again, the big areas here are if somebody's asked to return a product to you and you're not attending to it, and they escalate it as a case to eBay, and eBay decides that case, I'll guarantee 99% of the time eBay will decide in the favour of the buyer. Just like Amazon, eBay exists as long as buyers keep spending. So they will generally favour the buyer. And of course that way they'll take the money out of your PayPal account, they'll put it back into the buyer's PayPal account, and that's not a good way to be in business either. So again, every time those issues rise, attend to them straight away and professionally. You can also be at risk for fraudulent SNAD requests. A SNAD just simply means it's an item that's significantly not as described. Now that might be that the customer made a mistake, or it might be, in fact usually it is the customer made a mistake. People don't usually deliberately buy the wrong product, but they probably made a mistake. Maybe they got the wrong part, doesn't suit their phone or their computer or their car, and so they've come back, and instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I bought the wrong part, can I return it? Because most sellers will actually accept a change of mind return. The buyer's got a bit embarrassed, and so they make up a reason. They say, oh, it's not as described. And it's fraudulent. They're actually telling a lie. And that's probably usually because they're embarrassed. The problem with that, or the risk with that, is if you don't, again, attend to that and try and solicit out the truth and the correct reason for the buyer wanting to return the product, then again, you really don't have a leg to stand on. eBay is going to take the money from your account, put it back in the buyer's when they go and escalate it to eBay. So what you would do then is you would make sure that when the buyer requests to return a product, that you actually respond to them and ask them for more information and get them to hopefully really give you the real reason so that you can protect your own business. And the third area I've got highlighted there is an untracked INR case. And INR just means an item not received. So the buyer says they didn't get it. They could be telling the truth, they could be telling a lie, we don't know. eBay doesn't know, but the tracking will tell you. And the issue here is that there's a risk. If you're sending products out and not tracking them, well, you can't prove anything. And in that case, if the buyer says it, eBay is going to take it on face value that the buyer's telling the truth, whether they are or not, and you can't prove otherwise. It's a risk to your business. There are some businesses where it makes sense to send out a parcel untracked. For example, a DVD or a CD, fits in a nice envelope, and it can go as a letter, basically. At least in Australia, I presume it's similar here. And that's a choice they make because it's cheaper to the buyer, so they sell more. The risk is, of course, that they're going to get a few where this sort of thing might happen. The third area of risk on the eBay marketplace is being restricted by eBay, and there's several reasons why that can happen. If you break the rules, of course, that's kind of fair if you're knowingly breaking the rules. eBay usually will give you a bit of an opportunity. If you've made a mistake, they'll usually educate you and give you a chance to improve, as you would expect. But again, if you're not resolving cases that have been escalated by a buyer, eBay will actually start to restrict you. And the reason is because, again, they want the buyer to keep spending. If the buyer's not getting a good experience on eBay because of you or because of a competitor, well, that's not good for everybody else, and it's not good for eBay because the buyer's not going to spend as much. And the other area that I've highlighted there is Vero violations, and I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about Vero and the Vero program on eBay, which is eBay's intellectual property program. So there's a couple of other risks that we need to also be aware of. eBay accounts, when you open up an account on eBay, eBay considers it to be yours. Yours personally, yours individually. Even if you're the managing director of a company, they still consider the account to be yours. It's kind of weird. But eBay was started, of course, on the premise of peer-to-peer trading. It wasn't really in they weren't really thinking about companies and big businesses at that point in time. And it's taken a while for eBay to actually get to the point where they're starting to understand that. They're still not quite there. But because of that, they regard an eBay account that's open to be your account, and for that reason, it can't be transferred. It's yours. If somebody else wants an account, they open up their own. That's the way that eBay thinks about it. You are allowed to have multiple accounts on eBay. There's no issue with that. You are not allowed to duplicate listings across those accounts. So if you're selling one product or 10 products, you're not allowed to list 10 products on both accounts or multiple accounts. And so eBay's got fairly sophisticated, well, not sophisticated, but systems in the background to actually check and look for duplicates across accounts. If they find them, these days they'll pretty much just take the listings down. They usually won't give you much of a warning, but in the past they would give you an opportunity and give you a warning. eBay's actually started to get very aggressive with duplicate listings literally in the past month or two, and we're certainly feeling that in Australia, so don't list duplicates. But also think about accounts that may be linked to yours by eBay. So eBay will again be looking for common things between eBay accounts. The same name, the same IP address, same addresses, same email address, same PayPal account, same, all of these sorts of things tell eBay that the account looks like it's related. It's either the same person or the same household or they're somehow connected. And that creates risks as well. So you might have family members living in the same house as you that created their account at the same place, use the same computer, have things delivered to the same place, sent from the same place. As far as eBay is concerned, they're probably the same person, even though it might not be. I don't want to tell too many horror stories, but I have actually come across a situation where one man made a mistake on an account. His boss's business, which is the company he worked for, $4 million business a year on eBay, was shut down and suspended by eBay. And his brother's business, who was also trading on eBay, was shut down as well, just because one guy made a mistake on his account. Well, it wasn't a mistake, he was actually doing the wrong thing. And it took quite a bit of effort to get them back trading again. So that's a risk you just need to be aware of. Also think about if you are running a business and you have staff members using your eBay accounts, you'll also want to make sure that they understand that there are certain rules about what you will and won't allow. So for example, you might say they're not allowed to be logged in to your business account and go shopping. Or they're not allowed to use their eBay accounts on the work computers. They've got to use their mobile phone. You set some policies around that just to protect yourself, because again, their usage of your account can also link to their own personal account, and if they don't do the right thing on their own account at home, again, there's a risk that that could be connected to yours. The reason it's a risk is because when eBay suspends a seller or restricts a seller, they restrict the person. And if that person is linked to multiple accounts, all of those accounts get the same treatment. That's where the risk is. Again, to emphasise this, before I go into that, I'll talk a little bit more about account transfers in the second box there. So you can transfer an eBay account where you are actually buying or selling an eBay or a business, right? An eBay account is considered an intangible asset for the accountants in the room, and therefore it can be transferred in that sense, but you can't do it without eBay's consent. There's a form you need to fill out, you need to submit it to eBay, you need to provide the evidence of the sale documents, the contracts, to actually prove it's a genuine business sale, and then they will allow the account to be transferred, and they'll disconnect it, if you like, from any other accounts that they might see it related to. So that's very important if you're going to do that. If you want to, you see somebody wanting to go and buy an eBay account, tell them no, not allowed. They have to actually be buying a business to do that. I did come across a situation last year where a lady had bought a business several years earlier from another lady that had a business, an eBay account with it. She ran the business on eBay. It was a very small business. She was doing okay. And the same lady that sold her the business sold somebody else another business which had another eBay account. That person did some wrong things on their account, eventually got suspended, and so eBay suspended all three of them, because they hadn't actually got the permission to transfer the accounts from eBay. So it's a risk that you need to be aware of. Account and store names. So there are rules around what you can and can't call your username and your store name. You're not allowed to have any references to a website, so it can't be a www or a .com or .com.au or something like that that sort of signifies a website or suggests it. That's absolutely not allowed. There are some very smart business people that call their business name something or other .com. That's pretty cool. You're not allowed to have the .com on eBay. So even if it's your registered business name, your registered trademark, eBay won't allow you to do it. And that's fair enough. It's their marketplace. They want to keep the buyers engaged with the site. Also be aware of using other people's registered names and trademarks, obviously, when creating names. Don't go and create a misconception, if you like, in the customer's mind about who you are. So what's the deal with Vero? Has anybody in here actually had a Vero takedown? Anyone had a listing removed by Vero? Right, one or two? Okay, that's good. Hopefully the rest of you never do. And certainly with what we're going to teach you today, hopefully you'll be well prepared if that should ever happen. Vero is eBay's way of dealing with intellectual property. It's the Verified Rights Owner program. It's pretty much the same as what 2 sessions ago, Peter Kern was talking about on Amazon. This is eBay's effective version of much the same thing. eBay set up the Vero program to basically look after the stakeholders of these 4 different areas up on the screen. From eBay itself, eBay doesn't want to get into trouble, eBay doesn't want to get sued, so they've got to protect their own marketplace, of course. They've also got to help protect sellers from getting into trouble, from perhaps doing the wrong thing or from other competitors doing the wrong thing. They've got to protect buyers from, counterfeit goods. And they've also got to be able to protect intellectual property owners as required by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It's law. So they have to do this by law, as does Amazon. So that's basically what they set out to try and achieve. The way it works is a brand owner or rights owner actually goes to eBay and will actually get verified. Usually that happens because they report a listing that they've seen on eBay where somebody's infringing their intellectual property. That might be a trademark or a logo that the particular seller is using that they don't have permission to use. And so the rights owner will report that to eBay. They'll quote their actual registration number of the trademark, provide the documents. eBay will verify them. So it can't just be any old person saying, oh, they're using the wrong logo, they're using, it's got to be from the rights owner themselves. So that's perhaps reassuring. But they can report several different types of infringements, as you can see on the screen. They can report goods that they believe are counterfeit. eBay is not quite robust enough at this stage, like it sounds Amazon is, to actually require that the seller has actually bought, or the brand owner has actually bought the product to test. They actually take it on face value, but again, they are required to do that, to take it on face value when it's reported by a rights owner. That's the DCMA. There's no, the burden of proof is actually on the rights owner themselves. They can also report design rights. So what that means is somebody else has copied my product. Somebody's passing off my product. It's not actually a counterfeit as such, but they've taken my design right that I've got registered and tried to copy it. It might be a trademark infringement where somebody's using a registered logo, or it might be unauthorised use of images. There's some examples, and there's others as well. The way it works is eBay will immediately take the listing that's been reported down. Remember, this is coming from a verified rights owner. They've already been vetted. So they take the listing down, they tell the seller, your listing's been taken down for this reason, and if you have any problems, go back and talk to the rights owner. Now, the classic mistake that most sellers make is, firstly, they get very indignant about the fact that they've had a listing removed, especially if it's a listing that's been performing well. That's understandable. And the first thing they do is call up eBay customer support and blast them. That's a waste of energy because eBay can't do anything. They're following the law. All you can do in that situation is actually go back and talk to the rights owner themselves. If you believe that you have the right to do it, you need to go and take it up with them. There are circumstances in which a counterclaim can be put in. This is a legal process. A counterclaim can be put back into eBay, and eBay will consider it under certain circumstances. I won't go into all of those intricacies today. So, how do we minimise the risk for being, losing listings on eBay because of Vero? Well, firstly, never knowingly sell counterfeit products. I don't think anybody here would do that. But also, to kind of go a step further and make sure that you check that the products actually are genuine. Make sure that you get receipts and certificates of authenticity and documentation to be able to prove that these products are not counterfeits, that they are genuine. Hopefully you'll never need it, but it's always better to be prepared. Never use somebody else's logo without permission. I see a lot of sellers doing this. It's a risk. If the rights owner doesn't want to enforce their logo in the marketplace, okay, it's up to the rights owner what they want to do. But it's a pretty risky thing to do. Take your own photos is always the advice of eBay, and I'd encourage that as well. Sometimes the rights owner or the manufacturer or the distributor might have official photos of products that they will allow distributors to use or retailers to use. But again, strategically think about whether having the same photo as everybody else is actually really the best thing to do from a competitive point of view as well. Also, eBay has a product catalogue, much the same as Amazon does. It's not as big as Amazon's. They're trying to make it bigger, and they're getting there slowly. But by using the eBay product catalogue, it means that if your product is reported for unauthorised image use, well, eBay actually provided the image, so it's not your penalty. The listing will still come down, sorry, but it's eBay's issue, and you actually won't get a violation for it. So that's good to know too. So what are your options if you actually do end up having listings removed by eBay? I've set it out in a bit of a table there to give you some of the options and some of the ways of doing this. So firstly, you can either accept it or you can fight it. If it's a counterfeit good or design rights claim and you accept it, well, just don't list the item again. Simply just get on with your, everything else. If you decide that you actually do have, firstly the products aren't counterfeit, or you do actually have the rights to this product, or your manufacturer does, and you want to defend it, well, you need to contact the rights owner that's reported it to eBay, contact them directly, and then provide them with the evidence and have that discussion. All right? Sometimes the rights owner won't want to talk to you, sometimes they'll ignore you, which is pretty annoying. But this is a legal process, so don't think that that's where it stops. If you really believe that you do have the rights and the rights owner is ignoring you, you can take it a step further through the courts as well. If the Vero violation is for image use or logo or listing content that's been copied, again, don't use their logo if you were using it without permission, or you can actually contact the rights owner and actually ask for permission. If the images were supplied to you by a supplier who told you that they're the official images and they're okay for you to use, maybe go back to them and check. Maybe go to the rights owner and say, we got them from our supplier, they told us, you need to have that discussion with the rights owner directly. It is important to know that little sort of orange section at the bottom of the screen there, that if you elect not to defend it, just remember that the violation strike will actually remain on your account. And if you start getting a few violation strikes for Vero claims, then you can actually end up being restricted and suspended from sellers. I've seen some sellers doing very big volume on eBay that have been suspended, I'd like to say without warning. It wasn't entirely without warning because you do get the email notices, but they didn't really think it was that important. So how do we deal with it? You get a Vero claim, the first thing to do is to contact the rights owner straight away. Don't leave it for a few days, don't leave it for a week, contact them straight away. We've just received notice that you've alerted eBay to a problem with one of our listings. Thank you for providing the report. If you have any problems in future, please contact us directly. We take this very seriously. Be professional. Don't go in defensive because you're not going to get anywhere. Go in there and show a willingness to cooperate. Show a willingness to ask them for the proof or to have that conversation with them. You're more likely to get a good answer or a good response back from them if you do that. It's also very important to keep eBay informed as well. So respond back to the email that eBay has sent you out and saying, again, thank you very much for letting us know. We take this sort of thing very seriously. We do not sell counterfeits, at least not knowingly, and if this is a counterfeit, we'll have to investigate, or if we do believe that we have rights for the images, we're going to check, and so on. Always ask the rights owner to let you know if they have concerns with other products. It's not much good having thing taken down and then a week later another one and then another one, because you're accumulating strikes on eBay, and that's a risk because your account could end up being suspended. So don't let that happen. As it says at the bottom there, whatever you do, don't do nothing. If eBay doesn't hear back from you after they've sent these warnings out to you, what can they assume? But that you actually did do something wrong, right? So let them know, at least that way it'll be on the record that you take it seriously. That's going to help you if something does go wrong and you need to get eBay to try and help you even further. All right, a couple of eBay policies specifically. You're probably going to find a lot of these very similar to what you have on Amazon. The two marketplaces are really not that much different in what they're trying to achieve. And so, again, they're going after a good buyer experience, and because of that, they're going to have very similar policies. A couple of specific ones on eBay that can really bring you unstuck very quickly. At the top of the list, duplicate listings. As I said before, you're not allowed to list the same product more than once, even across multiple accounts. And eBay has started to get very, very aggressive on this in the past few months, to the point of even sending out emails warning sellers to remove all their duplicates within 2 days. And if you've listed manually on the eBay site and you've got 1,000 or a couple of thousand listings, that's not usually an easy thing to do. So I've been dealing with some clients that have had that issue recently as well. Not very nice. Keyword spamming means you're using a brand name or a word that doesn't relate to the product that you're selling. If you're selling a Logitech mouse and you say in the title it's better than Toshiba mice, and you've now got the word Toshiba in there, and so that's kind of a clever way of getting your products up when other people search for a competitor's product, but that's not allowed. It's misleading to buyers, and it's not you're not allowed to do it. You will get in trouble for that. Don't misrepresent your item location. Don't misrepresent the item condition, of course. These are things that go to buyer trust. eBay wants the buyers to trust the marketplace, and so do you, because if the buyers stop trusting, they stop coming and you stop selling. Never bid on your own auctions. It's illegal. It's called shill bidding. It's illegal under most laws of most countries. It's not just eBay policy. Don't use eBay icons. I do see a lot of sellers putting in, the eBay logo in their thing, saying, visit my eBay store and having the logo there. It looks harmless, but it's eBay's trademark, and unless you get permission from them, you're not allowed to use it, and they will pull your listing down if they spot it. This one's an interesting one. You're actually not allowed to say in your text anywhere that you're a top-rated seller or a trusted seller or a power seller, even if it's true. And the reason is because eBay will actually put those terms up in your listings and on the various badges that they use where those things apply. You're not allowed to say it yourself. Don't copy other people's listings, of course. Don't list things that aren't allowed. An interesting one that's cropped up recently, not allowed to display any contact information on eBay. This is particularly relevant for Australia because I believe this has already been in the US for some time. In the UK, by contrast, you are required to actually list all your business information because of the laws there. So when you're trading in different eBay platforms or different country sites, don't assume that the rules are all exactly the same. Also, don't give the impression that you're trading off eBay or trying to trade off eBay. eBay really doesn't like that, and again, they're getting very, very aggressive on sellers that are giving any impression of trying to get the sales away from the marketplace. We're probably just about out of time. We've got a few minutes to go. What I want to do now is just quickly run through one of the most important things that I think you can do for your eBay business. It's all very well talking about the risks and the challenges, and then perhaps sitting there worrying about whether you're going to infringe any of these policies. The reality is that eBay has an early warning system. So there's no real excuse for getting to the point where your account is restricted or your account has fallen below standard, because the dashboard that eBay gives you is going to tell you if it's going to happen well before it happens. It's called the Settle Dashboard. It's basically eBay's metrics on your performance, and it's based on how you're treating the buyers around a couple of specific areas. So this is something you should be checking on a weekly basis. I'm not going to ask how many people check it, but it's a statistic that eBay has said only 4% of sellers check this dashboard every week. It's not hard to guess which 4% are doing the most sales on eBay, right? The ones that are aware of what's going on. So please, if you do nothing else, take nothing else away from this session, please check your dashboard regularly. It's the early warning system. It's broken down into two sections. There's the first section says your current seller level. That was based on your evaluation on the 20th of the last month. The evaluation happens on the 20th of each calendar month. So the 20th of this month, it's going to tell you where you're heading. So before you get to the 20th, check it, and if it's not looking good, you've got time to act. Don't leave it till the day before, don't leave it till the day after, it's too late. Even if you can get some of the defects removed because you've got other evidence and eBay removes them, once you've fallen below standard or gone above standard, fallen down from top-rated seller, it stays there for a month. eBay can't manually change that. So just be aware of that. Always get into it before that month is up. The actual dashboard itself is broken down into a number of sections. I'll quickly go through those. The transaction defect rate is basically where you've been awarded a defect or a point or a strike, if you like, for doing certain things. The two certain things, or two things that eBay doesn't want you to do is to sell products and not be able to supply. So if you sell an item and you cancel it because you can't supply it, you're going to get a defect for that, and it will show you how many of those you've got. You're only allowed to have 2% of your transactions within the evaluation period, which is either 3 months if you're doing high volume or 12 months if it's less. And that's not a very high margin if you're doing, not a lot of products. So it really counts. The second one is cases that are being closed without you resolving it. That means it's been escalated to eBay, and eBay then had to actually decide, and eBay ruled against you. If that happens, you get a defect for that as well. The next section down talks about the late shipment rate. The idea is that when you say you're going to ship the item within 1 day and you don't, that's a bad buyer experience. That makes buyers lose trust in you. It makes buyers lose trust in eBay. Nobody wants that. So eBay is going to hold you to your word. You say you dispatch in 1 business day. They want to see a tracking number in the system, a lodgement scan showing that the courier has actually got it, or USPS has actually got it. And they're integrated with those systems and the courier systems and the postal systems to get that tracking information directly back into their system so they can see that. So that's very important to make sure that you're doing that. The good news is, even if you haven't got a very good rate on this, it won't push you into below standard. It'll just stop you from being a top-rated seller. But I will say, being a top-rated seller, they're the ones that actually make the most sales on eBay. So it's definitely good to stay up there if you can. The section at the bottom, cases closed without seller resolution. Even though this is also a defect in the top section, if you actually have more than 0.3% of your transactions where you haven't resolved the case and eBay decides it's your fault, you go straight to the bottom of the class, straight to below standard. This one's serious. Don't let it happen. Don't let cases get escalated to eBay ever. Resolve them yourselves and you won't have this risk and this problem. The last section that we've got in the Settle dashboard is about having tracking uploaded on time and validated. Again, eBay is integrated with all those postal and courier systems, so they can see that tracking number, and you get the full breakdown there showing you how many of yours are on time, how many of them are validated, how many of them aren't. And again, it won't stop you from being, it won't push you to below standard, but it can actually stop you from being top rated. So this is again something that's desirable for buyers to have a good experience. So do your best with that. There's also the ability to actually get a full report of every defect and every strike that you have. So you can go in and look at each individual transaction and work out what happened, and maybe if you can have the defect removed because there were certain circumstances, then you've got the ability to go and find those. You've also got a section at the bottom there talking about your qualification as a top-rated seller. There are certain criteria for that. You need to have at least 100 transactions within a 12-month period. This particular seller is under that, so they can't be a top-rated seller, even if all their other performance is perfect. So there's a number of criteria to keep an eye on. The highlights are avoid the defects by looking after customers well, set expectations that are done well, offer good returns policies, be professional, respond promptly. These are all common sense things, right? I really don't need to teach you these things, and these things apply across any business, not just on eBay. So the idea is just do what's good common sense, good courtesy, and good business for your customers. If you believe that any of the strikes or defects can be removed, go back and talk to eBay and they will be able to remove them for you as well. But do it before it closes down. We're just about out of time, and I know that lunch is starting, so I don't want to stand in the way of that. I was going to talk a little bit about eBay's returns policy, just to if I do it like that, you can actually see it. The ones on the left are required by law. You don't have a choice. If the customer received the product and it doesn't work, or receives it and it was damaged, even though you might not have caused either of those problems, you've got to make it right. You might have further claims uplined to your courier or postal service or your supplier, but you've got to make it right to the buyer. Your returns policy on eBay is a change of mind policy, which you're not required to do, but it's obviously competitively very advantageous to do it if you are able to do it. Right. Whoops, go back to that one. There it goes. Remember that trading on eBay is no different to running a business anywhere else. You are a business. You're not just an eBay seller, and you have legal rights, and understand your legal rights and be prepared to go and talk to lawyers where you feel you need that information. In Australia, we have a free legal service which allows people to actually get on the phone and ask questions. I'm presuming they have something like that similar here in the States, but understand that you are running a business and don't just always be the victim. Best places to get further help from the eBay Seller Centre. There's the URL there for it. It's written in your language, so go and make the most of that. Obviously, eBay help and contact, which is up on the site. You can type in your questions and get quite complicated and extensive answers there. And it'll also encourage you for some community support to go and log into the eBay group, eBay Stores, Nothing But eBay Stores, run by Kathy and a number of the other admins, which I think are here as well. And you'll find a lot of great support from other eBay sellers in that community as well. And I think we're out of time. So thank you very much. Hope you do well with your business.
Thanks, Tim. Great stuff.